Hello everyone, and welcome to the 5th episode of Mike's Surf Talk. Today, we're going to have a special guest who is a local Wildwood resident, and we're going to really get into a great conversation with a super athlete. Let me welcome Joe Maloy, Olympic athlete. Joe, great to see you. We go back, way back, me and Joe, back to the old Wildwood Catholic days. How about it, Joe? So let's get started. I think all the viewers are going to be really interested in what Joe is going to say and how his life has progressed, and he's going to be an inspiration to all you young athletes. He's done it all, and he's a hard worker, and it shows what hard work does. And Joe is the leading example of hard work. He's a great kid, and we're going to really get into his whole life, and he's going to explain how he made it to the Olympics. So Joe, let's get talking right away, and let's talk about your Wildwood days and what happened there and how you grew up and what worked for you and how you became an Olympian.
That's a long story. That's a long story.
Eventually.
I'm not sure we have time for all that. But
Okay.
First off, thanks for having me. Thanks for opening up this conversation. I hope people will enjoy listening to my path, because it's they say that doing something really big changes you, and it's for sure true. But it doesn't change who you are at your core and where you come from. And to me, everywhere I've gone all over the world, but I've always been, like, my heart has been connected to my family and friends, my history back here.
Well, you're a Wildwood boy through and through, and I know your parents, Mary and Joe, are super proud of you. And I know them from growing up with them and being around them for years, and they are just must be an inspiration to you.
They are. Honestly, my parents, I would never, I wouldn't have been able to do half the things I've done without them. They're, first off, they set an example. I think to be great at anything, you need to do it consistently, because you don't feel great every day. It's the old adage, if you just work out on the days that you feel good, you're not going to get much done. So, and my parents were an example of that. They had their routine. They went to work every day. They took pride in that. They took pride in, they both worked at Crest Memorial for my whole life growing up. I don't know the exact number of years. But they didn't love going to work every day, but they did it.
Yeah.
And they did the best they could. They did the best they could, and I took that lesson with me and applied it to pretty much everything I did growing up, through school, in my athletics, and then afterwards as I went off to college. That was one of their biggest messages.
Well, let's let the viewers talk a little. We'll talk a little bit about your athleticism and how you got started in being an athlete. Your high school track days and running cross country days with Coach Malinowski, and and being a lifeguard, and what that did to prepare you to move to the next level as an Olympian.
Yeah. So basically, growing up, I spent a lot of time. I grew up basically with the Wildwood Crest Dolphins. I came up. Bobby Watson was my coach at first. John McGrody, two huge influences on my life. And every day I pretty much did the same thing. I went to school, went to my dad's classroom and did homework for an hour.
Right. And
And then at 4 o'clock, I went to the Crest pool and swam from 4 to 7. And it was through that process that I kind of learned to love. I started to love to work hard. And swimming is a pretty it's lonely, but you do it when you do it on a team. You do it with a bunch of people who are kind of doing the same thing, and you feed off of that energy. And I think that's kind of where my passion for pushing myself was born. And I went to Wildwood Catholic. My freshman year, I did cross-country swimming and tennis. And then my sophomore year, the track coaches talked me out of tennis, and I switched over to cross-country swimming and track, and followed that pattern for the next 2 years, junior and senior year as well.
so you were Joe was a star lifeguard in lifeguard races. I know I would always open up the paper, and Joe Maloy, Wildwood Crest needed him because he was the man, him and his brother.
We loved it. Honestly, we loved it. A big reason, actually, why I was always a little bit better at running,
Right.
relative to my peers, than I was at swimming. And one of the reasons I chose swimming in college over running was because in lifeguard races, we had to swim every Friday night. The race had to swim. But on the lifeguard race circuit, there were only 2 races where there were runs. So I figured, oh, if I swim in college, I can train myself to be good every week on the lifeguard races. Whereas if I run, I'll only get to do lifeguard races like twice a summer.
That's really the best way to train. Do it all. And when you were swimming with, I know you had 2 coaches. Bick Murphy was an inspiration to you, and Bill Audie told me that he was involved with you in the water sports of the ocean. And maybe we could talk a little bit for the surfers and the paddleboarders, what kind of paddling you did, like as a lifeguard in the races, and what you did every day on the ocean during the summer.
Oh, now you know how to get me talking. So honestly, growing up on the beach was a huge part of the person I am. Bick and Audie were both big influences. I remember going from as young as probably 6 years old. I would go to Cape May with my brother, and we'd watch Bick win the lifeguard super athlon, which was like to me that was the biggest sporting event of the year. And we'd go, and Bick would usually win. When he didn't win, I'd be all upset for a week. I'd be all think the universe was all off. But he'd spend time with my brother and I. He'd give us his trophies to take home, which we thought was the coolest thing in the world. And to him, it was this small gesture, but to John and I, it was like, wow, like you this is the biggest trophy. This trophy's as big as we are. And you saw him, and he was just somebody I wanted to be like. And then Audie came on a little bit later. He was a North Wildwood guy, and growing up on the island, if you're a Crest guy, you're a Crest guy, and you don't really like the North Wildwood guys. But I was struggling to pick up some aspects of open water swimming, and I hear this guy Bill Audie through a mutual friend, Mary Ellen Curley, who's my physical therapist down here. She said, Audie would like to show you some tricks to open water swimming. And I was a little nervous. I'm like, I don't know if I want to learn from a North Wildwood guy. But eventually we got out there, and I remember the day we met at the Crest Fishing Pier, and he took me out, and I said, and I was always a little paranoid, which seems weird because I do all this stuff that you'd be like, oh, that kid's not worried about anything. But I was, and I see these people fishing off the pier, and that was when the pier still got to the water.
Right. I remember those days.
Yeah.
He used to throw a sinker at us.
Yeah. There were a bunch of barnacles on the pipes and stuff, but so we're swimming out there, and I said, Audie, these guys are fishing. Like, I don't want to hit the hooks. And he goes, well, don't bite the hooks. And he just starts swimming anyway. So I mentioned that story because it seems small, but it's an example of an attitude that I think we take for granted down here that's really unique. And it's kind of Jersey Shore culture where it's you live and let live, and you're not afraid to really go for it. Where there's risks out there. There's hooks in the water, and are you going to let that stop you from getting in, or are you going to just kind of weigh the odds? And if your heart tells you to go for it, go for it. And to be honest, I remember that swim like it was yesterday because it was the swim was great, but swimming, but it was overcoming that fear that. I came out of the water that day feeling really alive.
Well, you went for it for sure. Anybody to reach the level you did, number 16 in the world in the triathlete, and the top triathlon in the United States. I mean, what else could you possibly do? It's incredible. And maybe we could just talk a little bit about how you got into the triathlon. And how many years you've been training, and a little bit about your training, and you can tell all the ones that want to be triathletes what they need to do if they want to at least try it. I mean, you're talking bike, swim, and run. I mean, us surfers, we paddle out, we surf. It's a little bit probably a lot easier than being a triathlete, but we work hard too. So it's like let's let these guys know how hard you worked and how you pounded the rock, man.
You got my saying.
That was your saying.
So there's a lot there, but I'll start with how I got into triathlon. And it was basically after I graduated college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and there was an opportunity to stay at Boston College and coach swimming. And I thought, oh, that's a great way to stay in college and put off doing whatever it is people do after they get out of college. And I'm 31, I still don't know, but it was, so I saw that as a pretty cool opportunity. But then as I was on deck and I was watching the kids train, I saw how much I missed competing and being in the game. And win or lose, there was just something about that got me excited. So I started training for triathlon in my downtime. You know, there was a big hole where my social life used to be, so I filled it with a couple hours swimming, biking, and running up in Boston. And then as time went by, that year I actually won the age group national title for the U.S.
Yeah, I read the. I looked up the story on that. You and your dad went down to Alabama.
Yeah.
And nobody knew who you were until the end of the race, and then they knew Joe Maloy, Wild Crest.
That's a pattern. That's a pattern for me. I normally show up where no one knows who the hell I am.
Yeah, but they all know who you are now. Let me tell you, and they're all looking up to you.
It's some of them. But honestly, and so that speaks to the reason why I decided to go for it. You know, I was happy in Boston, but there was something in me that itched to know what if. And I thought to myself, do I want to live in a world and continue living in a world? Because I realized that I think the world we live in is a lot of times we take for granted that it's fixed and it's set the way it is. But I don't think that's the case. It's been fixed that way by people who went before us and decided certain things. And it's really liberating once you realize, you know what, no, we have the power to create our own world. And I realized that was an opportunity in my life where I could either take this worldview and take a relatively secure path, or I could give this thing a shot that I was kind of curious about. And I didn't know it would lead to the Olympics, but I decided that I would rather live in a place where people can go for things and people can follow their dreams. And you know, it was an opportunity that I knew if I let that pass, it would never come again. Yeah, I wasn't going to get any younger. I wasn't going to get any faster without training. So I did it. I kind of took the leap, and it made a huge difference.
I mean, that's an incredible story that you could take that and apply what you've learned as a child, what you learned in high school, what you learned in college, and focus that onto the sport where, like you said, you've already been doing how many years?
So my first year in triathlon was 2009.
So you're talking, well, a very, very short time, where most of these athletes end up training for years and years and years to get to the level you did. I mean, the swimmers, Michael Phelps, whatever, you know, they've been training since they've been, 3 years old probably, and that was their goal. But what you've done is an incredible, unbelievable experience and an unbelievable goal that you've reached at this point in your life, and you're so focused. You know, not many people your age are as focused as you are, and you know, wherever you're going to do in the future, you're going to be going places. We know that.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll see.
So we'll be.
Well, actually, one thing I want to say about that you were talking about that is, you know, I haven't been involved in triathlon specifically all that long, but I got into it. And all of a sudden, this stuff that I did previously in my life started to say, "Oh, that kind of makes sense." You know, all the time I spent on the beach, paddleboarding, swimming in the open water. You know, at the time I did it because it was cool for lifeguarding, and it helped me be a better lifeguard. And I really enjoyed it. I liked the feeling of feeling really small in the ocean, and there was something that gave me peace doing that. And then all of a sudden, I'm in this new sport, and that gave me an advantage over the people who had just done triathlon. You know, they grew up, and a lot of them were afraid of the ocean. But I'd approach a swim, and the more variables there, that was better for me, because that's what I grew up. Even though I didn't know where it was leading, that was I turned it into a strength. So I think a lot about following your path in life, and this is whether you're in triathlon or outside of it, is realizing what makes you you and what makes you unique, And even if you don't necessarily think it follows, it's not going to follow, a set path, but if you can figure out how to make those things and use them to your advantage in whatever you're doing, that's your edge right there.
And I think you're telling to the viewers, and some of the ones that are not from New Jersey, or not from Jersey, or not from Cape May County, maybe don't know Cape May County and know what kind of beach we have and know what kind of ocean's out there, because we're all ocean people. I'm an ocean person too. I mean, I grew up surfing. I started in 1963 surfing at the pier with a scoop surfer. We walked to Larry Benelli's house. It was next to you. And, you are a water person too. And that's your foundation to you've succeeded, because you are focused and you want to keep moving and keep learning and keep trying. And like I said, you'll be going places. So, is there anything else you can add about the Olympic experience that the people might not know? Any tidbits or what happened? I mean, how was Rio? What was that like? Maybe just let the people kind of get an idea of what that was like to show up at a world event with world athletes there and the press and the TV and everything else. I mean, I saw it on TV and it looked incredible when you guys were running up that water, up onto that beach and getting on that bike and running and getting on and riding. So could you share with the viewers a little bit of that?
Yeah, it's true. It was for sure unlike anything I had been a part of before. And it's not that the nuts and bolts of what I was doing were any different. The distances were the same, the location was different, but it was still my bike, it was my running shoes. So what was interesting for me was it was like two sides of the same coin. On one hand, it was completely unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Normally, there's 2 or 3 cameras set up on my race course. At the Olympics, there were 50 or 100. And the amount of media coverage, the amount of attention I got from all sorts of people. I had been doing triathlons at a very high level for definitely the past 5 years. But all of a sudden, people started saying, "Oh, you're a triathlete. You're doing these triathlons," and as if I just came out of nowhere. But that definitely wasn't. I was working in kind of obscurity for a long time before the Olympics kind of put a camera on it. So my approach to it was basically I can acknowledge that this is different than anything I've ever done, or I could just remind myself, wait, this is just a triathlon. This is what I've trained to do. This is what I'm good at, and just do the things I need to do to be successful. And I took the second approach because I thought that was the best way for me to find a place where I could perform. And a big part of competition in anything is understanding what type of mindset you need to be to perform your best. I heard a saying that was, you can either be a thermometer or a thermostat, meaning you either let your environment control you or you control your environment. And so I thought the best way for me to be a thermostat, rather than just real reactionary to everything that was happening around me, was to just kind of to make it as normal as I could.
You would have to, under all that glare of the cameras, and you're representing the United States. I mean, how many million people? And you're the #1 triathlete, so it's a lot to talk about, and a lot. It was an incredible conversation. I hope the audience really appreciated Joe's story. And like I said, Joe's going places, and we're really happy here at Kona to have Joe as a part of our group here. I mean, we're going to get him out paddleboarding with us. We're going to be doing paddle boards, and when he's a little bit retired or settled down, you got to hold him down. He's either swimming, biking, or moving, And Chris and the gang here created him a hat with the red, white, and blue, and Joe on the back of it. This is your. That's
awesome.
That's your motto.
That's awesome. So we didn't talk about this, but it's got my motto, "Pound the Rock," which it comes from the way a stone cutter works, and a stone cutter just pounds at a rock over and over again, and eventually the rock splits open. And that was kind of the way I looked at my training towards the Olympics. I was doing the same thing every day, and some days it wouldn't feel like I got anywhere. But then all of a sudden, you have this breakthrough. You qualify for the Olympics, or you win the Escape from Alcatraz, or you win a world relay title. And these are all things that happened to me last summer, and they were all, they didn't just, it wasn't a one-day thing. It happened over a long period of time. And that's why I like Pound the Rock, because it's, you work in a certain way, and a lot of times the results don't happen right away. And I think that runs counter to what a lot of people kind of expect from in our culture. People want things right away. You expect communication instantly, and that's not the way it works with pursuing a big goal or going for something that's real. I think really worthwhile.
Yeah.
So that's why I like Pound the Rock.
We get a question from the audience from Tim. He wants to know, Joe, did you ever surf to help train for the Olympics?
Tim, I wish I could have surfed more to help train for the Olympics. But if anything, it was to get away from my training. I had a surfboard out in California that I would take out when I wasn't too exhausted. But it would usually only be for like an evening session. Out on the West Coast, it was nice. I'd go out there, the sun's going down. Maybe get tossed by a couple of waves, but that was it.
We're going to get Joe out here surfing, and when he's here, he's gonna be part of our group of surfing and paddleboarding and being a lifeguard and just promoting all the young people in Cape May County. We look up to you and think and aspire to what you've done and see that you've come from Crest Memorial to the Olympics, and you're the most highest person that we think about in Wildwood Crest of what you've done in Wildwood, and you've put Wildwood on the map. Let's put it that way. So we're really happy to have you here, and I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to Mike's Surf Talk, and I want to thank Joe for coming. Joe, we go back to the old days of Wildwood Catholic. He went to school with my sons. And like I said, Joe's a great guy, and he's going places, and we're just so proud of him. And I just want to thank his parents for letting him come on.
Yeah, thanks, Kona. Thanks for having me here.
And we're glad he's here.
Sharing the story.
Well, we'll see you next week. We'll get a little more into the surfing. We're going to get a couple surf people on in the next few weeks, and with Joe and Matt, we've had two unbelievable celebrities from the Cape May County area who have been kind enough to come on and talk to you. And I think these videos are we're going to go places. A lot of people are going to see them, and we're really happy about it. And thanks again. And if you have any questions or comments, put them right on our Facebook page.
Chris Lanza, he asked, "Hey Joe, how do you recover after a big race?"
The first thing I do after a big race is give myself a license to relax. Normally it's the culmination of a lot of focus. So I'll go out to eat, go out with some friends, probably eat something a little off my regular diet. Normally I go for like a burger or something, and just some downtime with friends.
We didn't get into the one thing though about like what I'm kind of a health freak. I've always been kind of a health fanatic. My wife has been. We've always that's just the way we've kind of operated. And I know you must have a special diet that you're on. I mean, you kind of what do you do mostly?
So my diet it's a product of habits. Yeah. I think a diet is anything. All a diet is
a lifestyle.
Yeah, all a diet is it's a habit.
Correct.
And I think if you're constantly trying to make decisions about what you eat, then that's going to be very overwhelming. But if you just get used to having oatmeal every morning, you don't really think about, oh, maybe I should have like fried French toast or something. You just wake up and you have your oatmeal. And I think putting those types of steps in place where you kind of take the thought out of these decisions that could go either healthy or unhealthy, that was a big thing for me to realize in my training.
I saw your stats, and I think it said you're 140 pounds. So in order to maintain your ability and the fuel and how much you train, I mean, you have to probably have taken a lot of food.
I do.
And you're at the age where you're burnt. I mean, your age, and plus what you do as a triathlon, you must burn up some serious calories.
Oh, for sure.
Any other questions?
I think that's all.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Joe Maloy, Olympian, And we'll all see you next week. Thanks again, and take care, Joe. And I'll be seeing you around. We're going to be paddleboard and surfing together, brother.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good.